As to the DNA evidence, I'm going to ask Mr. Daugherty to respond to those accusations as it goes to the sufficiency of the evidence and the basis for a motion for a new trial.
Thank you. Your Honor, if I may, I will be brief. I do believe that the record does need to be corrected, however. When I received the results from cybergenetics from Defense Counsel, the truly old results, I spoke with the CODIS administrator for San Bernardino County. She informed me, and I subsequently informed both Mr. Moline and Mr. McGee, that in order for a private lab to submit evidence to a government lab for entry into CODIS, the FBI maintains very rigorous standards. One of the standards is prior approval, I believe it's of the technical leader of the government crime lab. In order to accept the evidence from an outside lab, they need prior approval from the lab, from the government lab, to input the information into CODIS. They knew that, and they knew that because if the court will call the Bodie evidence, Bodie asked ahead of time, as they should have, to get prior approval with whatever government lab they have a memorandum of understanding with to enter that information into CODIS. Defense counsel, Mr. Gerard, said, until we know if our client's DNA is on there, we don't want to put it into CODIS. So at that point, the standards, the MOU, the agreement that San Bernardino County needs to accept that evidence to put it into CODIS is missing. It's not there. The lab director standards, again, require a CODIS administrator to follow them at the risk of losing CODIS access for the county. I informed Mr. McGee and Mr. Moline of that in February. Mr. Moline met with the CODIS administrator in May. I was there. He asked her, did Mr. Daugherty tell you not to run these through CODIS? She indicated that I did not, and I did not. In fact, when I got them, I inquired as to whether that could be done. And that's when she explained the procedure and everything else. So I want it to be clear that when we're calling these are profiles developed by probabilistic genotyping software that somehow have to be entered into CODIS, and we have a mixture of up to 11 people. A human being only has 2 alleles at any given location. Some of those locations had in the 20s, 22, in fact, alleles. CODIS only allows entry of so many alleles into its system to do a search. So Mr. Moline wants to paint this as the government has biological evidence and they're refusing to test it. And he knows better. He knows better, and he's known better since January or February.
So this is another example of where there would need to be an extensive evidentiary hearing to produce all of those witnesses, and again, that is something that is better suited to a writ proceeding.
Well, in any event, it's certainly not new evidence, not grounds for a motion for a new trial. That was an added shot at the prosecution of the government in this case, to be able to go out and say, they have biological evidence, they refuse to test it because they only care about winning. That's not the truth. That's not what happened here, and it's not the basis for